Thank you all for coming. My name is Emily Riley. I'm with Students for Fair Trade at Seattle Central. We're here today to refute the claims that both the Mayor's Office and the Seattle Police Department have made in regards to the demonstrations last Saturday, saying that no one was hurt. We're going to be talking about a number of injuries that occurred and addressing the excessive use of force. And we have a number of speakers today. Tony Granillo is from the Seattle Human Rights Commission. Tony, Granillo.
Good afternoon. My name is Tony Granillo. I'm with the Seattle Human Rights Commission. I'm here to support the demonstrators in their claims that there was unnecessary use of force committed at this demonstration at Thomas and Broadway. The Commission, at its last formal meeting of the Commission in April, filed a complaint against Captain Jim Stanford and Assistant Chief Jim Pugel, Michael Stanford and Jim Pugel. And in that complaint, we have alleged that the order to enter the crowd through use of force was unnecessary and that it instigated a riot.
Next, we're going to have Sally Soriano, S-O-R-I-A-N-O, with the Seattle Green Party.
Thank you very much. As a member of the Coordinating Council of the Seattle Green Party, our organization is in disbelief and appalled at the fact of the overuse of force by the Seattle Police. On Friday, the 19th, April 19th, we sat down with 2 police officers and a member of the Human Rights Commission and the organizers for this event on the 20th. We discussed the issue of how people are arrested when they are arrested. And we went back to the fact that in the history of Seattle, during the anti-apartheid movement, people were arrested for walking over the line at the consulate, the South African consulate. Many, many people remember that history. 1986, 87, 88 in this city. And people were ceremoniously arrested. There was not, and their names are now, on an arrest, that they were arrested. But on the 20th, what happened with the Seattle Police at Seattle Central Community College, I was standing next to 2 young people who were arrested. One head was pushed into the brick wall at Seattle Central Community College. The other, a young woman, was pounded into the ground, literally pounded into the ground by 2 police officers. An absolute excessive use of force. No reason to do this. They were not doing anything at that moment. And for the Seattle Police to be using this kind of force with young people who were committing civil disobedience, and there was no call for this kind of action to happen. Thank you.
Next, we're going to have Logan Price with Students for Fair Trade, Loganprice.
I'm a student at Seattle Central Community College, and I also represent Seattle Central Students for Fair Trade. It should be noted on the issue of political discrimination and censorship by the Seattle Police Department that prior to April 20th, they presented unsubstantiated claims and lies to the administration of Seattle Central Community College in an attempt to shut down the school for an educational teach-in that we were planning on having. It should also be noted that elected representatives were planning on speaking at that teach-in. This is basically blatant political discrimination, and as students, we see this as a very big problem and a very big lack of democracy in Seattle. When a young woman cannot stand on the sidewalk in Seattle and peacefully voice her political opinion without being brutalized and hospitalized by the Seattle Police Department, we do not have justice in the city. And until the Seattle Police Department can be held accountable by a citizen review board, we do not have justice in this city. Thank you.
Next, we have Mark Taylor Canfield from the Committee for Government Accountability, Taylor-Canfield.
Hi, I'm Mark Taylor Canfield with the Committee for Government Accountability. We're a public interest group that was formed to look into the WTO investigation by the city about what happened during the ministerial conference. And since then, we have been writing reports about civil rights. Our last report was sent to Arthur Knoy at the Center for Constitutional Rights at Rutgers University. And I'm here today to speak about the fallacies and the scandal involved with the mayor's office and the Seattle Police Department giving out misinformation regarding the protest. Number one, the mayor said that no injuries had occurred. We have photographs right here that prove that people were injured. We have over 300 photographs from Cop Watch. We have videotape and we have numerous eyewitness testimony. They will be testifying today before the City Council's Committee on Policing about these incidents. Specifically, I would like to say that the CGA has presented a letter to the mayor's office demanding a public apology for the misinformation that has been given to the public. When Florencio Puja, who is a Seattle school employee, called the mayor's office last week, he was told by the mayor's spokesperson, Marianne Bichelle, that the woman who lay unconscious on Broadway during the protest had suffered an asthma attack. Marianne does not have asthma. Marianne had her head slammed into the pavement and became unconscious while she was in handcuffs, had to be treated at Harborview Medical Center. We also have 10 other reports of people who were injured, including concussions because of aggressive police tactics. We are demanding that the mayor's office give us a public apology for giving out misinformation. We also had people calling the Seattle Police Department East Precinct. They also gave out misinformation about the protest. Obviously, people were injured. We have the video, photographic, and eyewitness testimony to prove it. The city is wrong. Okay, at this point, all we want to say is that we have so many reports of the indiscriminate use of pepper spray and excessive force. We want to know, when is the city going to be accountable for these activities? How many more millions of dollars have to be paid out in settlements to people who have been injured by the police before the taxpayers have a public outcry which is deafening and must be listened to? We also want to say that the integrity and the competency of the mayor's office and the Seattle Police Department are now in question. Thank you.
We're going to have Michael Joby from the Capitol Hill Community Council next, D-O-B-B-I-E.
Hello. Just to say that while we agree that there are questions regarding the way the police handled the entire affair, there was in fact a lot of communication between the different parties involved that actually in the past has not occurred before. So in many ways there are a lot of positive things that occurred, and obviously there was some unfortunate injuries that we believe could have been handled differently, and so we do have questions concerning that. Our hope is that some good constructive dialogue can occur and that we can resolve issues of public safety as far as if the police are there for the public safety of the people on Capitol Hill, then why did these injuries and unfortunate incidences occur? So I think we'll just have to wait for some further dialogue and communication between the different groups. So thank you.
I'm going to be speaking on behalf of the woman that you all have pictures of here. She's a 20-year-old student at Seattle Central. She was in the crowd when the police stormed the intersection. She was grabbed and thrown down. Her head and her face were stepped on. She was pepper sprayed, and she lost consciousness. She doesn't remember quite that well what happened after that. We have reports that she was pepper sprayed before and after she was in handcuffs, and we have around 20 reports right now that she went into convulsions on the pavement. It was reported that she had asthma, and this was an asthma attack. She does not have asthma. She's never had asthma. She was not diagnosed with having asthma at Harborview Center where she was taken. When I got to the hospital, they asked me if my friend was deaf. And they said, it's very serious for your friend to be faking like this. I went in and I assumed that she was just scared and she was going to begin talking to me. For an hour, as I spoke to her and tried to coax her into speaking, she was tense and curled up, and tears streamed from her face. She was entirely nonverbal for 2 hours as she scrawled on the paper what had happened to her. She's still suffering from post-traumatic stress. She has nightmares every night. And as a student, as a fellow student, as a friend, it's an absolute tragedy, and we need accountability for these issues. Thank you. Next, we're going to have Ivan Morgan, who is IVAN-MORGAN with October 22nd?
Yes.
With the October 22nd Coalition.
Hello, I'm here on behalf of the October 22nd Coalition to Stop Police Brutality, and also here in behalf of my son Joshua Morgan that was killed by King County Police last April 16th. My son was pepper sprayed 5 times prior to them beating him. While they beat him, he was trying to get out a double glass pane window and cutting himself all the heck, and they beat him for 17 minutes straight, and then they got him into restraints and didn't watch over him for at least 12 minutes until he died. They had him in the double hog tie position, which is highly deadly to certain individuals. I'm here to state that I've done extensive studies on the pepper spray in the last 4 or 5 months, and I have documentation on it. The manufacturer of the pepper spray say they only spray 1 second burst of pepper spray in an individual's face 6 to 10 feet away. Anything over that can be lethal or fatal. It's quoted by the manufacturers that the pepper spray shouldn't be used on anybody that's on narcotics, intoxicated, or has a mental illness or on mental illness type medications, and also anyone that has asthma. This pepper spray can cause someone to stop breathing, can cause their heart to stop beating. There's not a lot of incidents where it's been proved that people have died from the pepper spray, but I do have documentation from way back 6 to 10 years ago. And the police are hiding all this. The coroner's office, they know what can cause the pepper spray can cause, and they hide it. They hid it from my son's inquest. They didn't bring up that the pepper spray could have been a possible cause of his death, and they should stop using the pepper spray on any civilians or anybody of our community, because it can be lethal. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you'll all stay for the City Council hearing that starts at 2 p.m. We're going to have a lot more eyewitness testimony that are going to be talking directly to the City Council.
Here's a copy of my remarks. My name is Tony Granello. I'm with the Seattle Human Rights Commission. I'd like to begin my remarks today by pointing out that on March 21st, 2002, the Seattle Human Rights Commission delivered a letter of censure against council members Jim Compton, Margaret Plagler, and Jan Drago. Why would we do something like that? Because this committee has systematically ignored all citizen input, including input from the Seattle Human Rights Commission, on the need for a meaningful involvement in the issue of police accountability. A pretty bold statement, so let's get specific. Today, the committee will talk about passing a resolution on data collection for racial profiling. They will ignore the Citizen Task Force recommendation that specific officer ID be included. This is because they are caving in to the Seattle Police Department objections. This is another example of this committee caving into the police department over the legitimate concerns of its citizens. Second, today, this commission will committee will recommend 3 members to the OPA Review Board and have failed to fulfill a promise made to the commission that the commission would be allowed input into the down selection of those candidates, and instead the police department gets a chance to say these are the people that we would like to have on the board, and not citizens on their own review board. Again, 1 year later, April 18, 2001, we came before the commission came before this committee with a process for involving the community in structuring this review board for improvements. That proposal has been ignored for over 1 year and 15 days now, and there has been no committee action, and there has been no response nor action on that proposal. And finally, on the 5th of September 2001, this group of people behind me came in here and talked about what happened on August 25th, 2001 with Reclaim the Streets. That testimony has been ignored, and now they're back again, and the same thing has happened. When are you going to listen? When are you going to act? How much worse does it need to get?
Thank you. The next witness is Emily Riley.
I'd like to play the video, please. Yeah, it should be up here.
Well, while we do that, why don't we go to the next witness, Logan Price. Does Logan Price have a videotape as well? Let's get those two ready. Pat Champion.
He's playing the videotape.
Sorry?
Emily's playing the videotape. I don't know.
This is a videotape offered by a citizen in lieu of testimony.
These for the...
Are these the same videotape? Is that right?
Yeah, this is the same videotape. She's playing it instead of me, just to clear that up. My name is Logan Price. I'm a student at Seattle Central Community College. I would like to take my 2 minutes to read a letter here that was written by Dr. Pete Knutson, who is a professor there. Dear City Council members, on April 20th, 2002, I witnessed 2 brutal arrests on the South Plaza of Seattle Central Community College campus. These occurred around 6:30 p.m. after a large crowd of demonstrators had left the area and headed downtown. There was no crowd or any evidence of organized protest at the time. The atmosphere was relaxed, and earlier attendees of the rally had mostly dispersed. I was standing on the bricks of the South Plaza when suddenly a squad of 10 to 15 bicycle-mounted police charged off Broadway onto the SEC campus, in pursuit of 2 young bicyclists who appeared to be teenagers. The police rode past them very quickly, grabbed the 2 young men, and slammed them to the ground with maximal force. They then used their bicycles to pummel the kids who were already down on the bricks. This was done brutally and swiftly with no apparent provocation. The police then formed a phalanx with their bicycles around the prisoners as a small group of witnesses gathered. He goes on to describe some other activity and then goes, however, my attention turned back to one of the young bicyclists about 10 yards from me who did not seem to be moving. After several minutes, he sat up, and I could see a large gash across the front of his face, about 4 inches long or so. His face was bleeding, and there was blood on the bricks where the police had struck him down from his bicycle. He looked very groggy, as if he had suffered some severe trauma to the head. After 10 minutes or so, an ambulance arrived, and the police assisted him to the aid car. I witnessed this with former student Dushka Fowler-Dunning and with State Representative Marilyn Chase. Representative Chase agreed with my observation that there had been no apparent provocation of any kind of these police actions on the SCCC campus. I urge City Council to fully investigate the actions of Seattle Police Department officers on SCC on April 20th, 2002. I'm a tenured professor of anthropology at Seattle Central Community College, and I am proud to have been employed there for the last 7 years. Our socially conscious student body demonstrates deep commitment to social, political, and environmental justice. They are a major part of the reason Time magazine selected Seattle Central Community College as one of the top 5 best colleges in the United States. They carry forward an honorable tradition of protest and democratic dissent, which I wholeheartedly support.
Mr.
Pete Knutson, PhD.
Time is up. Thank you.
As
Yeah, we've got the pictures, and they'll form part of the record, if that's all right. Did you want to put them in the permanent record? Thank you. Pat Champion.
My name is Pat Champion, and I'm a member of the Citizens Task Force on Racial Profiling. I'm here to urge the data collection resolution. I'm also here to urge an amendment because part of the resolution that was originally put forth had another charge for the task force, which was to look into police accountability and early warning systems. We've already started to do that. That is not mentioned in the new revised resolution that Councilmember Compton has put forward. Bob Berkowitz will be putting forward an amendment. I think it's very, very important that we are allowed to continue the work and that we do the data collection. Not only is it a slap to the face to the members of that committee who spent 10 months of meetings doing this, and then to arbitrarily kind of not use it, I think is really, really not only a slap to the face to the commission, to the task force, but to the community who asked for this to happen. So I would urge you to go ahead with the data collection and amend it as per Bob Berkowitz.
Bev Ingram.
Hi, my name is Bo Ingram. I was one of the people assembled peaceably on April 20th at Reclaim the Streets. I was here maybe 6 months ago for the same thing, talking to you guys about these gangsters who rushed in on peaceably assembled students and concerned citizens and started beating them bloody and macing them, and for absolutely no reason. There was maybe 500 or 600 people at this protest. Would have been many, many more, but people are scared to come out and voice their opinion. People are scared of the First Amendment because they feel like they're going to get thumped, like they're going to get their asses kicked, and that's what's happened continually over and over and over again. And I come here and I talk to you guys, and I think something's going to happen, and then it happens again, and it happens again. I mean, I'm here testifying right now so people can see this on TV, because I know it plays over and over again. I think it's really important for the public to hear testimony about what happened that's, you know, outside of the mainstream media, because they just slam us every time. It's a joke. But people are scared to come out. People are scared of democracy, coming out and voicing our opinion. I mean, this was a Reclaim the Streets protest in conjunction with an IMF and World Bank demonstrations going on in D.C. These institutions, these global institutions, by being Americans, we have a lot of influence on what they do, our tax dollars. A lot of people feel we hold a huge burden of responsibility for what they do and a lot of the suffering around the world, primarily in the third world. And what the police do, and what they have been doing since the WTO, at least here in Seattle, is ensuring we don't act on that responsibility and instill that fear in us to say you can't come out and you can't voice your opinion, or you're going to get your ass kicked and you're going to go to jail and you're going to face bogus charges every time. So, you know, I don't expect you to do anything, but I hope people get to watch this on TV and wake up.
Thank you. Adam Bonner, please.
My name is Adam Bonner. I'm an activist who was present to witness police action on events related to April 20th. There is conspicuous photographic and testimonial evidence that numerous physical injuries were sustained as a direct result of police action on April 20th. I personally witnessed SPD officers using excessive physical force. I saw officers pushing the faces of people into the ground with the full weight of their bodies. I saw severe physical restraint of persons who were giving no resistance. I saw careless maneuvering of mounted and motorcycle police that endangered pedestrian safety. I saw dispersal techniques, including advancing with bicycles and pepper spray, that also resulted in injuries. The statement by Mayor Nichols that there were no injuries on April 20th is as outrageous as it is spectacularly false. There will be no police accountability as long as public officials continually fabricate laudatory falsehoods. The mayor stands in severe perjury of civic truth, and I urge that his statement be publicly rescinded. I also urge that the City Council rapidly advance the call for an urgently needed democratically elected Citizens Review Board beyond the vastly inadequate resolution currently before it.
Thank you. Bernadette Logue, please.
Hello, I'm Bernadette Logue, and I'm with the Freedom Socialist Party. I'd like to wish everyone a happy May Day, and this is a great day to be testifying about police brutality, since it was on May 1st in Chicago, where a huge number of people were protesting for the 8-hour day almost 100 years ago. They gave us May Day because the cops attacked the crowd, and here we are again. I would like to demand that the mayor and the city council protect the First Amendment, that they prevent attacks by the police on unpermitted protesters, and that they take into consideration when two rights of the citizens collide, such as the right to not be caught in a traffic jam and the right of free speech and free assembly, that they think that free speech should be the right that's upheld. If you're going to beat up people in Seattle for every time they block traffic or there's a traffic jam, the police will be busy full time, bludgeoning the citizens. We are speaking to express our deep outrage about this dangerous suppression of free speech and the right for peaceable assembly. What occurred in the December 20th demonstrations, which began on Capitol Hill and marched downtown and back again to Capitol Hill, these were vital democratic rights that were attacked by the Seattle Police Department, both before and during the protest against the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. The police pressured the Seattle Community College and the surrounding businesses beforehand to shut down, to create a lockdown zone and fear. During the demonstration, the police used intimidation, harassment, and brutally attacked activists who were peacefully gathering. The extremely confrontal response of the Seattle police has threatened the right to people to publicly protest. There is no such thing as good protesters and bad protesters. We have a right to protest without permits in this city.
Bernadette, your time is up. Thank you.
I would ask that the same rights that had been accorded the protesters on I-5 had been accorded the people on April 20th, and there would have been no injuries, and it would have been a great protest. The Seattle police need to be held accountable. We need a publicly elected civilian review board, not this sham.
Mark Taylor Canfield.
I'm Mark Taylor Canfield. I'm with the Committee for Government Accountability, and I have several points I'd like to make here. Number one, I have been asked to read a statement by a Seattle public school employee named Florencio Puja, who asked an officer at Broadway and Thomas if warning would be given and if he was safe being there. The police officer assured him that that would be true. Within 30 seconds, they attacked the crowd. He went back to the same officer and asked for an explanation. The officer got off his bicycle, gave him a karate chop for asking that question. He has filed an official complaint with the Office of Professional Accountability. This is not the only example of people who are out there on the street who asked the wrong question or questioned an arrest and then were subsequently assaulted or arrested themselves. We have over 10 complaints with my committee alone of injuries that were caused to protesters. Meanwhile, the mayor is saying no injuries occurred, and then Marianne Deschelle from the mayor's office is telling people false information about the people who were injured. The SPD East Precinct has also been giving out misinformation. This is not accountability. This is not accountability of our city representatives or our public servants. The other thing I'd like to say is this is not a General Pinochet-style dictatorship. This is a free democratic society, and people have the right to peacefully, non-violently protest without being beaten and injured. Okay, police horses were used to assault people. We have complaints on that. No dispersal order was given. Innocent bystanders were pepper sprayed and attacked by police, had no idea that being in the area would be dangerous. That is wrong. This is excessive force used against non-violent protesters and bystanders. We want open public hearings, and we want the mayor's office to tell the truth, and the Seattle Police Department to tell the truth about what happened that day. I also am very, very upset that people who question what the police are doing out there are being assaulted themselves. That is not the kind of city that I want to live in. Many official complaints have been filed with the OPA and with other committees and commissions in town. You can bet there will be major lawsuits. Thank you very much.
Carolyn DeVita, let me say, we have about 8 more witnesses in the 5 minutes remaining. I'll try to extend that a very small amount, but we have so much important business on the agenda that I would ask people to be brief.
I think this is really, really important business. First of all, if you expect truth, it's got to come from truthful people, and these are not truthful people. Free speech means exactly that. You don't form a government, write a document, and tell someone they can speak, when they can speak, how they can speak, and if they can speak. You have a violent police force because you yourselves are violent. You want them to do what they do. They've gone from bad to worse, and it's going to get worse. A woman has lost a baby. People have cancer from the pepper spray, from the first WTO protests. There's specific groups being targeted. I stand with Women in Black. We have no problem. Someone non-threatening to the status quo is not treated like this. I have seen the police act very responsibly. I was on that freeway. I know it can be done. And maybe you're going to get sick of paying lawsuits and it's going to come home, because the only thing that's going to stop you is when the money starts to hurt. You are not thinking. You are always making excuses, and there is absolutely no excuse for what you've done. You should be ashamed of yourself. Those are not paid to do, police are not paid to do what you're having them do. They are paid to protect all of us and not brutalize a segment of society. And I expect you to do better.
Jackie Dempere.
Hi, my name is Jackie Dempere. I came as a witness for Cop Watch, and I made sure I was not arrested. I didn't jaywalk when I was going from Westlake to Broadway. The cops were ready to arrest people. Many times it was unsafe for us to, there were holes, there were things in our way. We were like cattle. I was there as a witness, so I made sure I was not arrested. I want to say I was a witness to the woman who went to the hospital after she was on the ground. 2 times an officer restrained her with his knee on her face, and I have pictures. Cop Watch has pictures. Then I have, in that same corner on Broadway, I took a picture of 4 cops. 3 of them had no name tags, and I asked one of them, what is your name tag? And he says, I had to change. And then I realized there were 4 cops, and 3 of them for sure have not. We have pictures of that too. Later on, I saw the woman who was pushing a horse, and I realized she was just touching the horse on the face of the horse. She was pushing it away, and she was very upset. And I started, they threw her on the ground, face down, with some cops. This was a small woman, and I was taking pictures, and the cops would not let me take pictures. I had to lay on the ground to take a picture of what I was seeing, because they will not let me take a picture. I asked later on what had happened, and they say that this woman got upset because an officer was on a horse, saw a man taking a picture of the arrest of somebody with a beard, and they used that horse with the reins to kick this guy who was not looking at the officer on the face. So this woman was reacting to the worst thing you can do is a gentle animal to use to hit somebody. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bob Berukowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a proposed amendment that I'd ask to distribute to the members. I'm Bob Berukowitz. I'm a member of the task force and also the director of the Defender Association, a public defender firm. I want to encourage you to consider the recommendation of the task force on the issue of officer identification and on the question of whether race could be perceived beforehand. Both of these issues the task force gave a lot of consideration to, and the majority supported the opposite position from what the resolution says. One of the things I'd like to point out is that when we drafted the resolution supporting officer ID, we committed ourselves to working with the media, with the police, to put into context what the data showed, to minimize any misunderstanding of that data. In terms of my motion to, or ask you to move to amend the resolution on the role of the task force, we have been meeting over the last few months with police training representatives and ourselves to talk a great deal about issues related to training and accountability and improving relations with the community. We bring a variety of perspectives and experience, and I think dedication. We really, I think, are on the verge of making some significant contributions to improving the discussion. The task force is the only established government-sponsored citizen group with an ongoing discussion of race-related issues as they relate to police practices and behavior. And it makes sense for us to continue to do it along the lines of what the council originally intended. One quick comment on the question of cameras in cars. I think it's a good idea, but it is not a substitute for data collection on an ongoing basis. There are many questions that won't be answered by data collection, but there are many questions that will be informed much more greatly by having more information about what actually is going on at the lowest level possible. And the cameras themselves, if you generate hundreds of hours of digital tapes, it's going to be very hard for somebody to look at those except when they come up in an individual case. I urge you to amend the resolution as I've drafted.
Thanks, Bob. Lisa Dugard. Let me say there are 6 remaining witnesses. If you can keep yourself within, we're at the end of the time now. I will extend this 5 minutes for the 6 remaining people, but we simply have to get on to the other important businesses before us. Lisa, go ahead.
I'm an attorney at the Defender Association and served as a proxy for Bob Berukowitz on the Racial Profiling Task Force. I attended almost all of the meetings over the past year, and I just want to observe that the recommendation by the citizens to urge the council to collect data by individual officer was adopted by a majority vote, and then that vote was reiterated on one occasion by a greater majority. So I think it would be unfortunate if the council were to reject the wishes of and considered recommendations of the citizens on that task force without having spent the months that those citizens spent debating the pros and cons of that position. A few 20 minutes of public testimony at 2 hearings is no substitute for the kind of debate that those folks were engaged in. Specifically, why officer ID, why collecting data by individual officer has value in understanding what is happening in this city is that it provides you with a basis to compare the data that you gather, which the current recommendation of collecting data by squad does not. Squads of officers are not engaged in doing the same work. They're deployed differently in different neighborhoods with different demographic characteristics, and it really isn't meaningful or probably fair to compare the statistics for one squad to that of another squad that is really doing different work. With individual officers, however, who are similarly deployed, there is a fairer or more reasonable comparison, and in a context where the task force itself and the council is clearly prepared to consider this data apart from individual officer discipline, just to find out what is going on. It is important to get the most information and the most useful information. Collecting data by individual officer does that. I guess that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. There's time for 2 more witnesses, Joe Schaefer and R. Henry Rose.
Good afternoon. My name is Joe Schaefer. I'm a 3rd-year law student at the University of Washington, and I've been working for the past few months at the Racial Disparity Project with Bob Berukowitz and Lisa Dugard. I just wanted to reiterate the amendment that has been made and how important that is. I've done a lot of work in the past few months looking at various studies of this type, and I can tell you that the collection of this information is extremely important. Without taking officer ID, you have no idea whether or not you're dealing with if there is a problem, you have no idea whether or not this is a problem of individualized officers, whether or not this is a situation of institutionalized, whether it be conscious or subconscious racism. So I urge the council to adopt the amendment as proposed. Thank you.
R. Henry Rose.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, council persons, thank you very much. I'm here before you today to talk about the racial profiling, but more importantly, to inform you, the speakers before me, to give accountability to their concerns. But they have no idea about the concern really that face the African American community. I am not here as the speaker, quote unquote, for the African American community, but I think it's quintessential that someone speak for my group in terms of what is going on in our community. And that is, one, we still have the issue of Mr. Thomas, and the reason, so I take offense by someone referring to the march that proceeded on to I-5, and no one was arrested. No one should have been arrested because no one did anything that I can ascertain, anything that would have caused any police action. And contrary to the March 20th incident, which in my opinion was also a very terrible force that was exerted by the Seattle Police Department on just private citizens. But more importantly to that, I want to make sure that any committee or advisory panel that is appointed by the City Council, that they have citizen input and citizen review. Thank you.
Thank you. I was given a separate sign-up sheet. If Paul Richmond and Jenny McCarthy can confine themselves to a minute, can you please do that? We're 27 minutes into this. We've got a lot of committee business to head.
I appreciate that. One thing that occurred to me looking at, I just reviewed the report from the last WTO anniversary. One thing that wasn't in there was the budget. I know that the police spent $250,000 on that one day dealing with a few hundred protesters. That's like what, like half a dozen public defenders you could have gotten? God knows how many social workers to have dealt with all this so-called crime, you know, get it at the front. I think it needs to be a part of every one of these reviews, how much the police are spending on these operations and item by item how they're doing it. For all indications, I can see the police spent at least as much this on April 20th as they did on the last WTO anniversary. I'll break at that because in the interest of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Jenny?
I think if you can get Paul Richmond and me to speak for 1 minute each, you ought to be able to solve this problem. And I will try. I just, for 2 years, skipping the 50 years before that of intermittent troubles, for 2 years almost since WTO, well, it's almost 3 years now, there's been event, hearing, confrontation, and I certainly plead guilty to contributing to a lot of the contumacious exchanges, but it strikes me that if the South Africans can have a relatively constructive Truth and Reconciliation Committee, if the Protestants and the Catholics in Ireland can do something, then we ought to be able to do something here. And beyond, we have to have the human rights perspective, the civil liberties perspective, and we have to have the threat of lawsuits, I guess. But there has got to be something that is ongoing, not just event-driven, emergency crisis-driven, to deal with these relationships which are in continual disarray, and including the mayor, and I second the outrage at his comments. I have a question, which is, what is the policy about using bikes as weapons? We heard some testimony about terrible things that were apparently done with them. I had a bike jammed into me April 20th. I was standing in the mall, and the policeman just shoved it at me. I said, "What are you doing? What for? What's happened?" He said, "Move back." Well, he had not given any warning. Is there a warning protocol, or what's the story on that? I'd like a public statement about bicycles as weapons. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the end of the public testimony.
That's a good one. Officer Hisson, get off your power trip. Not your white guys.
buy some more? Here's downtown business corridor.
You're interfering with my shopping! What? Yeah.
Are you good for it, Joe?
Is that your last one?
So were you detained by the police? Yeah. Do you mind making comment on that?
They gave me a ticket for drinking in the park.
Were they violent with you in your arrest?
No.
What was your name?
They poured out my beer though. I was very upset about it.
What's your name?
Jack.
Jack. Thank you.
They just gave you
a citation.
They just gave you a citation.
How about the other guy?
I think they just gave him a citation too, but they grabbed him after I did, so he's probably right behind me.
Were you mistreated?
One of them grabbed my hair from behind him.
Me personally, no.
I didn't even keep
Just typical aggro males, whatever.
I'm not going to arrest you. I'm not going to touch you.
No, none of them were doing anything. They just grabbed them and threw handcuffs on them. It's weird. It's weird because me and the other guy that were actually drinking in public, they grabbed us and like gave us drinking in public tickets. And people who didn't do anything, they handcuffed and threw in cars. It's like, what? That makes no fucking sense, you know?
Did you see it? I only saw it.
What did he do?
Oh, there are real things to be doing for police to pay your salary. That poor kid, a menace to society. It's disgusting.
Tell everyone.
Saw what happened. She's apparently this was she got dragged back here, sprayed in or assaulted. It's hard to say.
See your face.
Yeah.
Well, sure. She was just right over here by the side of that building on on Thomas, just before Broadway, and 3 cops just grabbed her. I don't know if she had said something. I don't know what provoked it, but I believe she was just saying her rights as an American, and they manhandled her. A small little thing, 3 cops on one little girl. It was rough.
Did you see her and what happened?
I couldn't see in the parking lot because they wouldn't allow anyone to come over here. Once they took people in, they kept people out, cameras and everything except for that one Como 4 guy they let back here after he gave us his credentials. So I don't know what happened to people once they got over to this point. But that one girl, it was just too rough for a little 5-foot girl, 125 pounds.
What was she doing at the time?
I was stating her opinion like everybody else. She wasn't swinging. She wasn't. She was in the street, but on this side of the banner. Of this side of the banner. So.
Sorry, I need these notes. So could I get your maybe your phone number?
Sure. No problem. I remember her.
Excuse me.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was.
Blocked me, wouldn't let me in the parking lot. I saw someone fall to the pavement. I actually originally thought it was the man that they'd arrested. Turned out it was a young woman. I overheard one of the officers saying that they were looking at someone who was suffering from an asthma attack after being pepper sprayed. I stood outside the parking lot for a time as the person lay there on her left side motionless. The officers were looking at her. Probably 10 minutes later or so, medics arrived from the fire department and worked on her. I saw them put some kind of patches on her stomach, I think some kind of monitor, check her out. And then I believe they gave her an injection, maybe adrenaline or something. She kind of jerked awake at that point. She looked semi-conscious before that, and then they put her on the truck. It was hard to tell if she was conscious for a long time. I should also say that after being blocked from coming in the parking lot for 5-10 minutes, the officers moved aside, and then we were all able to move into the parking lot.
Excuse me, do you know the number of arrests that were made at all?
I do not. I just, like I said, I saw one guy getting arrested. I followed him over here. He was taken down in the street pretty roughly, then picked up and physically dragged by about 3 officers over here, cuffed. They jerked the cuffs up over the top of his head, roughed him up a little more. At that point, my view was blocked. I couldn't see what happened. Then I saw somebody go down on the ground. It turned out to be the young woman having the asthma attack who was on the ground. I don't know what happened to the young man.
That was this woman?
Yes.
What did you see?
I saw somebody go down. I saw feet sticking out from the tail end of that BMW over there, and the person was laying on her left-hand side, it looked like, and just laying there motionless for the better part of maybe 10 minutes when I was blocked by the officers. At one point, bicycle officers formed kind of a barricade, so I wasn't able to see anything.
How do you know it was asthma attack?
I overheard one of the officers saying that they were looking at someone who suffered from asthma who'd been pepper sprayed.
Gotcha.
That was
I got a
out of the
whiff of
mouth of an
gas.
officer.
They use it.
Oh, I saw them spraying.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
They were unquestionably using it. So,
Yeah.
but I didn't actually see them spray her. Like I said, I overheard one of the officers saying that. I did not get that officer's name, unfortunately.
Can I get your name spelled?
What are you?
Channel 5.
Oh, okay. Yeah. My name is Mike Morris.
Yeah.
Okay. M-O-R-R-I-S.
And obviously you were the National Warriors.
Yes, and I'm an attorney in Tacoma, Washington.
Thank you.
Excuse me, ma'am. Do you want a lawyer? Do you want legal representation?
What's your name? We're putting together evidence.
Yeah, why don't I...
Not a commanding officer.
Can you refer me to the commanding officer? Sir, can you tell me the commanding officer's name?
Depends on which one you want.
Any of them? Can you tell me one commanding officer's name, sir?
Chief Curley County. You can contact his office on media relations. They'll give you the statement.
Okay, thank you.